Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I am a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Today is not a recipe. Today I am doing a back to basics tutorial on herbs. I am going to cover thyme and rosemary, which are very similar in how you prepare them. Parsley and cilantro, which are also very similar. And then basil. I will be showing you first thyme and by extension rosemary, because as I said, they are very similar. Now thyme you may have seen in its natural form, or you may have just seen it dried. But this is what it looks like. It's just tiny little leaves on a stem. And they do have tools that will help you to get the leaves off, because the stems are not very pleasant to eat. They can get a little woody if they're, depending on how old they are. So to remove thyme leaves, and you would do the same thing with rosemary, which if you've ever seen, I'll put a picture here. It has a fragrance like a pine tree, and it also kind of looks like a little pine needle sprig. But what you do is you'll take the top of the stem and just pull down to pull all those leaves off the bottom. Then the ones at the top, you'll just pinch and pull off like that. Then you have an empty stem. So I'll show you once again. Just slide your finger down, and the top came off, that one very easily. So if you need thyme, rather than using the dried, which is fine, you can use fresh. And what I do, because if you're like me, you will buy some fresh herbs for a recipe, then not know what to do with them afterwards, and then they end up rotting in the fridge. So what I do is I will prep all of this, throw it into a freezer bag, and throw it in the freezer so I have fresh thyme on hand whenever I need it. Now, as I said, rosemary would be the same. You would pull the leaves off of the stem, and then if you wanted to mince the thyme, you would just do a little rocking action, as I call it. You put your knife down, hold the tip down here so that it's not moving all over, and just kind of rock back and forth so you're chopping through it. Then you're going to turn in the other direction and do the same thing. Now, you might notice that there are little bits of the stem on some of these leaves. Those are fine, because they're not the thick, woodier pieces of the stem. These are the fine, softer stems. So there you have some thyme ready to use. And as I said, you would do the same thing with rosemary. Now, another thing that you can do with thyme, if you're just putting it into, like sometimes it'll ask you to put in sprigs of thyme. So let's say you had 6 sprigs it wanted you to put in. You would just take them, and what I would do is just take one of the sprigs and kind of tie it around so that you're holding all of the sprigs together in one little bunch. You throw them in whatever you're cooking, you let it cook through, and the leaves will fall off, a lot of them, into the soup, the stew, whatever. It will also steep the flavor into whatever it is you're cooking. So doing a little bundle like this is also a possibility if you don't want to chop them up, and you don't always have to. Sometimes just bundling them up, putting them in, if they call for sprigs, is the way to go. If they're calling for a measurement, like a teaspoon, quarter teaspoon, what have you, this is what you want to do, is just pull them off and chop them up. So that is thyme and, by extension, rosemary. Next, we will do parsley and cilantro. I'm going to be doing this with parsley, but you can do it with any herb that's kind of on a stem like this. And I got this little tip from my friend Kim over at A Girl and Her Phone. So thank you, Kim, for alerting me to this little tip. Now, she was using, I believe, cilantro when she did this. I'm doing parsley because Paul and I are two of those people who find cilantro to taste kind of soapy. So what you're going to do if you're going to chop it up is use a fork and pull the leaves off of the plant. Now I'm just going to pull all of this off and chop it all up because I will store it in the freezer. That way I have some on hand whenever I need it, and I don't have to worry about going to buy another one or having it rot in the fridge. So I'm going to bunch all of this parsley up, and then just when you chop like this, you want to put your hand on the top of the tip here so you're keeping it steady. And your hand should be around the knife like this, underneath the tang, I believe they call it. I'd have to double check that, but I think that's called the tang. But you want it here. You don't want to put a finger out like this. If any of you have ever watched Worst Cooks in America, you've seen Anne Burrell color someone's finger red if they do this, because that doesn't give you the security of holding the handle this way. Anyway, so you're just going to rock back and forth. And I do it like in a little fan, like in a semicircle, I guess. And move a little further out. Then bring everything in together again. And do it again in a different direction. And you just basically keep rocking until you've got a pretty good chopped herb here. And like I said, you do this with any sort of herb. You can do it with chives. You wouldn't need to use the fork method. But as far as cutting them up, chopping them, this is the way to go. So then you see, I have some nicely chopped herbs there, all ready for my recipe. All right, so that was parsley and, by extension, cilantro, since they are pretty much the same. Now we're going to move on to basil. Okay, so basil is often, very often used in Italian cooking, as well as others, but you will see it primarily in Italian cooking. A lot of the time you will hear reference to chiffonade, and that is what I'm going to show you. A chiffonade is basically turning the herb into strips. So what you're going to do is take the leaf and pull that off of the stem like that. And then these little ones you can put right in the middle of the bunch. So we're going to make like a little roll up here. Going to put all of these basil leaves together. You're just going to roll them up, kind of like if you were rolling up a cigarette or what have you. And then to chiffonade, to do a true chiffonade, what you're going to do is then slice across this way. And what you're doing is basically making little ribbons rather than having the whole leaf in there. So you can see they're little ribbons. Now you can use this in bruschetta, in pasta sauce, in pizza sauce. But for me, a chiffonade as it is, a plain chiffonade, the strips are a little too long for me. They feel a little, I don't like the texture. So what I do is a modified chiffonade. So I'll take the leaves off as usual. I'll just take a few for now. You're going to stack them and roll them tightly as you can. It doesn't have to be exact, but what I'm going to do from here is, so that the strips are not so long, I'm going to cut down the length. So basically cutting them in half and then going across like a chiffonade. So this is basically a modified chiffonade, because this way I'm not going to get strings of basil in my teeth, and they're much smaller bits than a true chiffonade. But there you have it. That is as easy as it is for chiffonading basil. Now you could, once you've chiffonated, whatever, if you wanted it finely chopped or minced for something that you wanted the flavors with just flecks of the basil in there, like maybe a pasta sauce, you would do the rock and chop. So then you're just going to hold the tip down as we did before and just rock back and forth. Turn different angle, rock back and forth. And you can do that a few times depending on how finely you want it chopped. But for me, that looks pretty good. So there you have it. How to deal with a few of the herbs that we might be coming across during our times together and how to prepare them. So I hope you found this informational. I hope that you will give me a thumbs up if you did. I hope you will also subscribe to my channel if you're looking for any sort of weight loss recipes, or even how to do some of these preparatory things to get ready for cooking. This is universal. You'll use this in any kind of cooking that you do. And hit the notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video, whether it's one of these tutorials, one of my short and sweet or savory or what have you, or one of my regular Friday videos. And also share this video if there are people that you know who would be interested in this kind of content, and share any of my videos. I would appreciate you spreading the word. And follow me over on social media. I will leave my Instagram handle here. Also follow me over on Facebook. There are two Facebook groups that I am an admin on. One is my own, which is Recipes with Roy. And the other one I am co-admin on with Jennifer Lynn from the Jennifer Lynn channel, as well as Bree Coleman from Balancing Life with Bree. The three of us pals are the co-admins on Finding Our Way, WEIGH, and I will leave the icon here so you know you found the right place if you are looking for it. So I hope you have learned a little something from these tutorials showing you how to prep herbs for cooking. So until the next time, bye.